And we're back, and I apologize because this is a long one because we're doing a mission that I hate and consider the worst in the game. It's called In the Dusty Dark, and I hope you like mazes, pits, and pyramids.
Oh boy, and we've got lots and lots of random dudes. Oh yes.
We're doing Jinn. The next two videos are all about Jinn.
Have we met the actual Jinn quest giver yet?
We will meet him this video.
I see.
And inadvertently insult him.
That's not hard. He's the kind.
Yeah.
He is the kind of guy who just is kind of mildly insulted by your existence.
He calls you child of mud.
Well, this is in the creation story we are.
Yes, but he's very mean about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, whatever. We did kind of outcompete. We ended up leaving him behind, so...
Look, God loved us better, and I don't know why. I'm not sure why. He just loved us better. And I know that's a really dick thing for, like, a parent to do.
But you don't... Yeah, but, you know...
That's not our fault. Like, that's on God. Literally.
Look, don't take an abusive parent, let your grudges against an abusive parent out on one of their kids. That's just not cool.
Exactly. But we're gathering one of King Solomon's many rings.
And King Solomon was famous for his rings and jinn and control over genies. That's a lot more of a Muslim thing, specifically. Though it did leak into Jewish and Christian legendry.
I was under the impression he was a big-time demonologist.
That's
whatever you call someone who's
we don't think of him like that. That's something that is that is completely absent from traditional Jewish views of King Solomon.
That's a big Christian thing?
No, it's a Muslim thing.
Oh, so it isn't the Christian tradition that he summoned demons
and even then
commanded
it's
them.
Even then the Muslim tradition isn't completely derogatory, because he didn't just summon demons, he also summoned spirits and jinn and tamed them as well, and was heavily associated with I think I've talked a bit before about how belief in desert spirits is something that goes back very far in Middle Eastern cultures. And he was strongly associated with mastering, being a sorcerer who could control them. And to a large extent, traditionally in the Muslim, so magic. When I'm talking, okay. You know what? It's good opportunity to talk about traditional views of magic in the various cultures. So I guess that's what this video is going to be. So, magic is... When I talk about magic here, I'm not talking about fantasy magic, but I'm talking about what the people would accuse witches of doing or do themselves. And this would be things like, if you've ever heard of the evil eye, or making good luck charms,
the evil eye, good luck charms, milk comes sour straight out of the cow, getting a chicken fetus in your eggs, deformed livestock offspring.
Well, I mean, those are omens, and causing or interpreting that are both forms of magic. Sometimes, because different cultures had different approaches. But it's depending on which culture you look at. Those cultures tended to have very different ideas for where that magic came from. Within the Christian world, usually it's the devil in some way, whether directly or through some kind of complicated network of demons. And the whole demonology is wild. As a study is wild. And it's we have evidence of written evidence, who knows how true it is, of popes in the Middle Ages who would summon demons specifically to banish them as a show of faith. And we don't know what that was about. We just know that people wrote about them doing that, and that's just something that they did.
Well, I mean, not all Middle Ages stuff is true. I mean,
yeah.
They wrote that what's his face, the famous Christian theologian, Oh,
There's a
fuck.
bunch of those guys. You'll have to be more specific.
The one with the hunchback and the weird eye.
Is that one of those wild saints? Like,
No, not one of the wild saints. He was I think he became a saint, but he's a very famous Christian theologian. He's like the Christian theologian
what,
you
Thomas
think of when you think
Aquinas?
of. Yes, that's who it is. Like supposedly he knew enough about God to animate a clay servant, and then he smashed it in a fit of rage.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the rabbis of Prague?
No, this is I mean, they might have. This is according to legend, sort of thing.
The fun,
but
like, I mean, look, Saint Thomas Aquinas. While I'm on the subject, I'll get back to magic later. We've been talking about mentioned people who are almost certainly autistic in the past, and this guy. This guy is. There's a famous episode where one day he was sort of zoning out, and he was just kind of bored and thinking, and he thought about Manichaeanism, which is basically, it's way more complicated than this. So it basically is the idea that God and the devil are of equal power, instead of God being more powerful than the demon. And so he was thinking on it, and he realized a logical flaw in the Manichaeanism position of Manichaeanism. So he stood up and shouted, "That's it for the Manichees, get me a scribe." And he looked around, and he'd forgotten he was at a banquet with the king of France and the highest nobility of the kingdom. And they were all staring at him, and so he just excused himself and left.
Shit, I would have got him a scribe.
Yeah, that was...
With how political the church was at the time, I want to be there when he's dissing the Manichaeans.
He was... But yeah, that's another... Like, look... Thomas Aquinas was one of those. There's a lot of weird, interesting people in the church, hanging out in weird parts of church history. Whether you've got Peter Lombard, who named his kid Astrolabe, to like Saint Ambrose of Milan, who was simultaneously the Christian theologian and the most ancient Roman person to ever live. But that's like. There's
the saint, the dog that's a saint.
Oh,
but not really.
Yeah, the Catholic Church hates it.
I think we mentioned the dog saint.
Yeah, the church hates it, and the locals just don't care.
They keep having to send someone over there to say, no, he's not an official saint.
And no, they just ignore it and go back to worshiping the dog saint.
Look, I'm not a fan of a religion that says all dogs do not go to heaven. Okay.
Okay, so
there were 2 movies about this topic.
Yeah. God. Like, okay, and speaking of dogs and of dogs who can perform magic spells, so magic. I can start expressing more information.
So let's start with the only Jewish magic I know of is the Kabbalah.
That's kind of the. I mean, I'm talking about it on bigger scale when it comes to magic here, like, but that Jewish.
I don't know if Judaism. Okay, go ahead.
The thing about Kabbalah is that in theory you can use it to do. It is effectively understanding the will of God well enough to enact it on the world. But once you understand...
But the more you understand it, the less you want to actually do because you understand God's plan. Yeah, we had that discussion. So, I was just saying that I don't know of Jewish traditions around magic that aren't Kabbalah.
In general,
are there?
In general, Jewish
are
traditions...
there Jewish magical traditions?
Those traditions are the same as whatever peoples they were living among, depending on the group of Jews you're talking about. Like...
okay. I mean, that's entirely fair. I mean, I didn't know the Christian approach to magic has typically been, what's magic and what's a miracle depends on the point of view and who's the pope at the time.
That's too, but mostly it's a question of source and association. Like basically, and there was actually such a thing as a white witch, and if you've heard of white magic and black magic, that you've seen played of white mage or black mage or whatever. that concept goes back to the idea that it's hard to describe, but and this is most common in old Western Europe, especially like the British Isles. But that okay, like let me start from this. Have you ever heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yes, I've heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
I am so.
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
I'm embarrassed that I forgot. I think that's actually how you pronounce that name. I'm embarrassed I didn't get it. But,
Darth Plagueis the Wise.
So the thing about that story is, if like the way we think of wisdom, he does not sound very wise. He sets his own apprentice up to kill him. But that's because there's multiple understandings of the meaning of the word wise. And the old understanding, like the old Anglo-Saxon understanding, back before like Normans started bringing in newer concepts of concepts like knowledge and intelligence and whatever, is deep. Like a sort of deep knowledge of reality. And sometimes you can become too wise. Like the suffix "ard" in English is a really outdated way of saying something that is too much of something. Like mustard means too pungent. Bastard means bast is an old French word for like a saddle, like a bag on a saddle. So it's somebody who rides around on a horse too much and goes too many places and sees too many people, if you know what I mean. And a wizard is someone who is too wise in that specific sense. So it was basically, a lot of magic was basically understanding the world way more deeply than you should and exploiting it. And usually that knowledge was associated with demons. Traditionally it was associated with spirits, but whenever
Christianity makes all spirits except the Holy Spirit demons.
Well, unless it makes them saints to get
that is true.
So
we have also talked about that.
Yeah, but there was the
for more in our 100-part fucking series on history. Watch the rest of these videos.
There's a lot of them. They stretch over a significant period of time. But, the idea was that it was possible to do some of this magic, like, without corrupting your soul and without like starting to traffic with the devil directly or anything. And you got white witches who were respectable. In some parts of medieval England, they were literally respectable professionals. The church hated them, but they would just set up shop and they'd be parts of obscure villages or small market towns where they'd sell charms and such. And that would be what they would do for a living. But in Christianity, magic would either be working with demons or working with, depending on how you define magic, it would be like trying to evoke the effects of saints. Like people would pray to specific saints for specific supernatural effects, and that's technically, depending on how you go about it, that does meet the definition of magic as it's traditionally practiced. And sometimes they would just basically be trying to invoke supernatural elements of the world. Like, there's a bunch, we have from, I think, the 1400s, a bunch of records of witchcraft trials in Venice. And these were not trials in which most people were convicted and put to death or anything. Even people who are convicted were usually fine. And the stuff that they did was like making dolls and then making dolls of like people they hated and then burying them. Or there's one account I like where one woman got really into it, and she broke into the original ghetto of Venice and started touching the local Jews with pork because she believed it would enchant pork somehow. And it was
like fundamental misunderstanding not only of Judaism but cause and effect.
Yeah. Actually, have I talked to you about the laws of sympathy and contagion?
No.
That's funny. That's something that I've talked about a bunch. Though I guess not to you, maybe. Okay, so when it comes to like people who use magic out in who used to try to use magic out in the real world, it usually operates if people aren't invoking supernatural figures, it usually operates on a couple of sort of like pre-scientific ways in which people think of different things in the world as connected. And there are two common ways that these connections are expressed, and historians call them I think this comes from alchemy actually, but the law of contagion and the law of sympathy. The law of contagion says that once two things have been put in contact, then they retain a sort of metaphysical connection from then on. So in this way, you could, say, track somebody by placing some kind of enchanted item on them, on their clothing, and then you would be able to track where the clothing would go, or you would be able to put a curse on someone's clothing by you'd metaphysically connect a doll to a person and then damage the doll and it would theoretically damage the person.
Didn't one of the King James of England have a witchcraft trial, something like that?
Yeah, James I, same guy behind the King James Bible, thought he was a great witch hunter. He was obsessed with it. That was his pet project. Like, it's in the same way that
you really just have to humor the monarchy, don't you?
In the same way that Isaac Newton in his life thought his alchemy was more important than his work in physics, King James thought his work in catching witches was the most important thing he did in his life.
Ironically, in the game we're playing, that's probably true.
Who knows? It's possible, I guess. But and so also the law of sympathy is the idea that two things that have something in common that share something in common, that commonality can be tweaked. So, and a great actually, let me say this. I think I've said that wrong. The idea that
calls to like,
basically, sort of. A doll thing that I used earlier is probably a better match for the law of sympathy. If you want a perfect example of the law of contagion, try homeopathy. Because that's
oh god, those people.
Yeah, that is like the idea that having basically put something in contact with something in a tiny amount.
This is kind of important, okay. So I'm going to have to interrupt you. We are learning more about this person and Jin in particular. He also says something pretty metal at the end of this.
Such sweet music they make. You felt the ground tremble. You wish to know what could fill the earth with such rage. Fallen, broken, the Jinn were cast out of paradise into the Howl. We languished through the fathomless gulfs of time until only we and the 9 houses of the Oni recalled when we were glorious. The lesser demonkind fell to cannibalism. The Jinn walled ourselves up in a forbidden city of heated brass. There, I served as the Caliph of Embers, Lord of
heated brass sounds familiar.
Understand to bow to.
Is that in the Divine Comedy?
To consider the sightless depths of my resentment when Akhenaten summoned and bound me with elder rites. To serve a talking monkey. Worse, to serve one aligned with the moon and a dreaming sun-eater. Pinioned by my honor and the old...
Okay, this is the first time we've heard about sun eating.
The vile task. It is reckoned. As for the perverse, they will be firewood in hell. my more degenerate siblings are corrupted, made to serve the Artanists through debased rituals of summoning and binding. Study and understand these rituals, and your monkey mind will gain the slightest inkling of an understanding of our Titan hate.
And you just walk away.
When I was cast,
And here he says a really raw line.
I cried out to the dark. I asked, how long? And the silence answered, forever.
That's a really raw line.
I mean, honestly, I hear that and I think, I reached out and cried, "Save us!" And Gaia looked down and said, "That's what the bees are for. Know your place." But like,
well, honestly, I mean, from a religious angle, they rebelled against God and were punished for it. Like you don't get takesies backsies on rebelling against God.
yeah, actually, I think we have been saving the story of. I think maybe I slipped up.
Yeah,
and
we've
gave
been
in.
saving a lot about the Jinn and the actual story of the rebellion for now.
Yeah, I can't believe it's finally time. It feels
It
like
is
an
finally
ancient
time.
prophecy coming true.
These next two videos are all about the Jinn.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, we can get back
yeah.
to magic later. It's time to talk about the first stage. So, and like, normally I just sort of ramble and you throw the occasional Socratic question in there. And I will make fun of
Yeah.
Socrates someday, probably at some point in Romania. But, Socrates spends every book he writes. And Plato spends every book he writes jerking off Socrates, and it just gets kind of funny after a while. However, okay. So we've talked about how okay, actually let me rewind. So now, please interject if I get something wrong, because you are now, I think, about as much an expert on this as I am. So okay. We know a little about the third age, a couple of bits about the second age, and very little about the first age. But we know
I forever assumed the first stage was just the Garden of Eden.
that's the impression we get. We know there was something called the Host, and those were angels, as far as we can tell. Like, there's one piece of bee lore on the Host, and it describes people making snow angels as the people subconsciously trying to send signals to summon back the Host. They've been gone since the first stage, though. I think they do kind of show up later once or twice, but only briefly.
Shh, that's a spoiler.
Yeah, no context on what that is, no context on what they do. But we do know that they created a whole bunch of things, and people talk about Gaia as sort of the spirit of the world, but I don't believe this game ever directly references the Abrahamic God. If anything,
No, it does. We see it this video. They say Elohim.
Elohim means divinity. That's actually a thing. Actually, I think Elohim specifically means angel. El means God. It's a common, and within Judaism, it's a very old and important taboo not to say the name of God. I think we've talked about this before. But
yeah, I apologize. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year. I completely forgot it was Jewish New Year.
Yeah, it's Rosh Hashanah. I'm not taking it off, though I will take Yom Kippur off. Rosh Hashanah is important, but it's just like a happy holiday. Yom Kippur is the holiday that you are supposed to take seriously. Like that, if there's a holiday you pay attention to, that's it. But yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, is that the we're out of the slavery of Egypt, or is
No, that's
that
Passover.
Oh, right.
Yom Kippur is the day of
You have too damn many holidays, okay?
Look, we've been through a lot. There have been a lot of attempted genocides we've been through that we sell. Like, the old joke is, your average Jewish holiday is, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. And you can tell Yom Kippur is special because it's a fasting day. It's so important you don't eat. But
I actually heard it put by another Jew that didn't manage to kill all of us. Let's drink, but he was a Polish Jew, so that just might be him.
I don't know. Maybe that's. I mean, granted, the part of the family where I got that saying was also Polish, so Polish Jews. I don't know. Probably just a different interpretation, but like, very Jewish. But like, Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. In theory, you are supposed to not eat all day, and to spend all that day going around to like the people that, everyone that you have wronged, intentionally or not, over the past year, and apologize with a specific view of doing better. Not just like say I'm sorry, but like actually figure.
I'm sorry, and I'll try to do better.
Like, and not even I'll try to do better, though that's better than nothing. But like, go like apologize to them and have ways in mind to make up for your transgressions. And you're supposed to do this for God, and most people do it to God because they don't want to spend all day running around talking to like coming to face to face with all their failures. But in theory, you are absolutely supposed to go around to everybody, use everything, go around to everyone you've like wronged in the last whole year, acknowledge specifically what you did wrong, and apologize and say how you're gonna do better next year, how you're gonna make up for it. And traditionally, that's a big part of what people do during or after Yom Kippur services. Is that they go in and they sit, and these services go for hours and hours and hours. And then you stay for another couple hours, talking to everyone at shul and saying, I'm sorry for whatever you did wrong, and everybody pats each other on the back and forgives each other and tries to do better the next year. But
we got distracted from the first age.
Yeah,
whether or not this game actually mentions the Abrahamic God.
Yeah.
They never say God specifically.
Yeah.
But they pretty much very strongly imply it's God with a capital G.
Sort of. I would disagree, but like, I don't know. You've probably seen more.
I fully want to hear your perspective.
Like Elohim, if I'm remembering right, like that I am.
I'm not even talking about that. It's very much too much lines up with Abrahamic canon for it to not be the Abrahamic God.
Well,
they take too much shit from these myths for them to go, no, it's this God you've never heard of.
Well, that's just it.
Or no, it's our OC God.
That's just it. There is no the idea. There's the thing about the host is that the host they don't mention anybody on the top of that structure. They sort of work like the host itself is doing everything God did. Like, they cut out the mention of whoever's like, I don't think they imply anything about how the host works or how, like you said yourself, Elohim, that I am is a plural in Hebrew. And if I remember right, that's a reference to, like, if you know all those hierarchies of angels, different like names like cherubs and seraphs and such, that's a reference to either the whole group or one of the groups within that group. So, I don't know. If you see something specific that discredits that, point it out to me so I know, but I don't think they ever actually directly reference one God.
They never say one God.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that's less because they intend it for not to be one God, and more for the very legal reason of, if we say it's the Christian God, people will be very pissed.
I mean, that's fair, but
that's just the impression I get.
There comes a point where you go so far into that it becomes its own thing. Like, Dante writes about his political enemies burning in hell, and 500 years later, that's what people think hell looks like.
That's very much a pattern with this. Like, I get the feeling they absolutely meant the Abrahamic God. They take too much from Judaism, Christianity, even Islam, for me to sit here and say, no, they mean their OC God, who just so happens to take from all of these traditions.
I mean, but yeah, there is no OC God. There is no specific God. Well, I mean, technically there is an OC God, and that's Gaia. And Gaia is at the heart of all this.
That's fair, but Gaia is still here.
Yeah, and
so we're left with the impression that there is a guiding intelligence or force that has left.
Yeah, and my argument is that guiding intelligence and force was a collective, and like it's. I'm trying to drive the point home that there's a difference here between a bunch of angels who are all making decisions together and a single god that's making a decision and angels are acting. And that's like, I know that's kind of a fine distinction to people on foot, but when you're talking about religion, that is a massive distinction. Like, people have killed each other.
That's completely fair. I feel they imply too much for it to just be the angels, is basically my argument. They have set out all of these things, and there's too much implication that it is God. There's just too much implication, because I don't think I've ever seen in anything a group of angels be a committee making the world and it not being polytheism.
I mean, where in this do they say call like the structure of the history of the universe monotheistic? Like,
that's fair. I was more talking about your mention of host being plural.
Yeah, but the host is a plural entity. The host specifically refers to the angels.
Right, but when they use Elohim, they're using the Jewish word that means the host, which it is.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, like Elohim is literally a plural word. It is a reference to a bunch of things.
Okay, that's fair. What I'm trying to get across is, if we take that there is a plurality of angels, we also have to take that angels imply something. The very language they use implies something.
And what, like,
if you say angel, that implies God made the angel. Essentially, is my argument. You can't argue for a committee to create the world from the whole cloth and then say, where did the committee come from? It's the same argument with saying a singular God did it. Where did God come from? But
I mean, in that,
I don't know.
Like, the answer,
I've kind of lost the plot here.
Yeah, the answer to that is that God is uncreated. He's been around forever, literally. But like, all right. So is this? Are we going to call this the first or second? Are we going to call this the first or second ecumenical council of the secret world?
Well, obviously it's the second one, because the first one was when they made the secret world.
Yeah, that's fair. But like,
I could absolutely get into this game and call a moderator and say, I am making an LP. How do I get in contact with the people who wrote this? I can absolutely try and get in contact and answer these questions.
Look, when they inevitably announce this thing is going to go down, go ahead and do that. And see, like, start bugging moderators to see if you can get in contact with any lore masters who are soon to be unemployed, and just milk them for what it's worth.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah,
we're coming up on 2 years since the patch note, since the notes on the launcher were changed. So
yeah. Rest in pieces. Yeah.
But let's go back to first, second, third, fourth age. So we've already talked in previous videos. There are 4 ages. At the end of each age, everything resets, but artifacts persist and are sort of out of place, causing divergences from what would have happened.
I mean, the
second age was the creation of hell, and the third age, we don't know what ended any of the ages. That it's implied that there is something that everything crescendos to that is so cataclysmic it must be rolled back.
Mm-hmm. And
but we don't know what that is.
We believe that that's related to hell in the second age, but we don't know. And we believe, I think there's mentions of warfare at the end of the third age. There's mentions of like over-exploitation of the world, but those are all very vague. And no, there's nothing conclusive there. But we do know, even though this is basically just storybook stuff at this point, that the rough story of the first stage, which is the host created the world, whoever and let's just insert another 40-minute argument on who is behind the host
Yeah.
here, and just you can all just imagine it as you listen. But they created a bunch of different spirits as well as humans, and the first and foremost of those spirits were the jinn themselves, who at that point were happy servants of the host and were quite satisfied with the world and very much loved it and thought it was the best thing ever. And they didn't like humans very much, but they also didn't really hate them either. They were just, different parts of reality. And then, at some point, maybe you remember the details on this, because I think they do talk a little bit about why this happened. But the host started openly favoring humans over jinn and over all of the other spirits.
We do not know why, but it is a familiar fall from heaven narrative that we've all heard in Sunday school.
Yeah.
Or at least,
well,
I mean, I don't know if it's in the Torah. I guess it's in the Torah because it's in the Old Testament.
Well, no,
you know what I mean.
Like, so the war in heaven is a Christian thing, but that's another story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Satan does not exist.
I didn't.
Well, Satan does exist as basically God, the devil on God's shoulder, like in the book of Job, who just basically. It's extremely Jewish. He double guesses everything God does, and just to make sure that it's going right. But he's not like he isn't.
Okay, here's where we come to the mention of Elohim when we read the tablet.
Speaks of the unbound one, the first jinn created by the host, the prototype. Beware.
Can you tell me where in the
Wise is the maker who fears his own skill. The host could not command it. I could have sworn.
Yeah, Elohim, Jinn, and Shaitan
Elohim,
tremble.
Jinn, and Shaitan.
That's and look at
savage feeling.
Yeah, that's probably.
But then King Solomon tricks it.
Mm-hmm. And God, damn it! Had we had more time, I could have worked up to the Islamic conception of magic here. Do you want to
do that now?
Should
do that now? We have time. Yeah. Believe me, we have time.
Let me check.
We still have an hour.
Yeah,
we have time.
We have time. But okay, so I'll loop back. So magic in different cultures looks at different ways. In Christian cultures, it usually focuses on either summoning devils or deep knowledge of the world. In polytheistic cultures, it usually focuses on spirits and invoking them in various ways, for good or for ill, or also for, to some extent, invoking knowledge of the world, though that depends on the culture, and this is a very Chinese or Indian thing, depending on how you interpret it. First, jinn created by the host.
I have known the eight. I have heard their words. I know of this being.
That's a reference I don't know.
I don't know the 8. There's the 4 and 60 that come up so from time to time. That's 8 times 8, but I don't.
I remember vaguely there being something about there being a group of truly good people that the world revolves around.
The Tzaddikim.
That the world is. Yes, that. But I don't think there are 8 of them. I think there are 32.
There's 36, but yeah.
Neither God nor demon nor even the Sun Eaters could control.
Yeah, I don't know the 8. So, shout out to anyone who actually listens to this crap. Tell us what the 8 is.
Leave a comment. We can get a new comment.
The lamp is a contrivance of storytellers.
Yeah, piece of technology from the Third Age. Because of course it was.
A containment unit holding a pocket.
You need a MacGuffin in this game. It's a Third Age relic. That's just how you do it.
No, the unbound is not.
Okay, so I'll work around to. So, however, within most Muslim conceptions of magic, that is commanding spirits. That is commanding jinn or commanding various other nature spirits to do your bidding. And that's not... It's traditionally not looked down on as being unnatural and also immoral, because remember, I think I've mentioned this before, jinn are regarded as dangerous, unpredictable creatures, but also fundamentally like people, like they convert to Islam and stuff. But it's evil in a sort of mundane way. rather than being a supernatural sin like consorting with the devil would be. And in tradition, like the traditional view of King Solomon in Middle Eastern folklore is as either the first or just the greatest sorcerer ever, who bound demons, who bound jinn in immense numbers in rings and in lamps. And that's I think in like the genie in the lamp, like out of the original Aladdin story, was supposedly put there by King Solomon. I could be wrong, but
I seem to remember him using servants to build the temple.
yeah,
but you said that wasn't.
that's according to the folklore at least. That's how those are the servants he used, and that's how he built the first temple.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this now. In the Dusty Dark, the mission we are doing is the worst mission in the game, I believe. It is long. It is dark. There are multiple puzzles and traps that will cause you to respawn far back. It is full of stuff that you can only get on a perfect run-through. There are at least 3 achievements you can only get on a perfect run-through, which means no falling into pits, no dying, and remembering to do certain things while being chased by invincible monsters. It sucks.
Yeah, that sounds like a really that's Secret World game design, everybody.
This was not playtested properly. Or at least they didn't listen to the playtesters. Because, here's the other thing. You'll notice that I have a helmet. I can't use it because I'm out of batteries. That is a debuff you get.
That's...
So you have to use a torch. If you get in combat, you drop the torch.
Jesus Christ.
It used to be that if you died, you dropped the torch, and there wasn't a way to get another torch. So they had to add areas with torches.
Like, giving you a helmet and having it be out of batteries is a very Secret World touch while you're fighting supernatural monsters. Letting you find batteries to remove that debuff would have made it fine game design. But they didn't.
Well, not really, because we're in a secret, ancient, hidden temple thing. So
I mean, they could just, like, I don't know, they could have found a way around it. And just, like...
They absolutely could have just not had the damn battery problem.
I mean,
the torch is just there. The torch is just there if you don't still have the helmet.
Yeah. I mean... The idea...
You're trying to give them, like... an out.
Well, that's
happen.
not what I'm doing. They don't deserve an out. What I'm saying is, the idea of the mixture of just like realizing that you're binding helmets out of batteries, and juxtaposing that on fighting filth monsters is a very Secret World thing. Just the way that mixing modern technology with ancient magic is just how this game ran early on, especially. But that's not what they're doing here.
Okay, so we talked about the Islamic conception of magic. Let's go back to talking about the ages.
All right.
So first, second, third, we're in the fourth. Something is coming. We don't know what, but it is implied that is the same thing that caused the last turning back of the age. But the machinery is described as broken and degraded, so we don't know if it'll work again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is no end game. Like, this is an MMO, there is no end story. There will never be an end story. It doesn't make enough money for them to put a finale on it, I'm guessing. Like, they've been promising the next step of the story for a long time. But I read fanfiction a lot. And one fanfiction I read, which is as good an ending as any, is that the Filth come, and essentially Gaia goes, oh shit, and awakens every living human on Earth to fight the Filth. And most people die, but we win. And then we go out into the universe, and then it turned into a Mass Effect crossover.
Oh.
So that's all I got.
That's all. Fair enough. But like,
yeah, like we show up destroying one of the Black Suns that they talk about in Filth lore, and oh god, here's the first puzzle: invisible floor, invisible maze floor. Fuck whoever invented this.
Achievement failed.
Yep.
Quick access inventory updated.
Mission failed. But yeah, oh God. Anyway, so what happened at the first stage is, so we were talking about how the host liked their super special and ultra nice human people better than the Jinn who worked so hard to show them favor and to earn their
Not
respect.
just the Jinn, but were the demons around at that point?
No,
Oh.
I don't think so. Like, Hell was a second project in the second age. Like, I think the demons were around, but not in like their modern form, and they didn't Hell.
Oh well, that's absolutely true. We talked about that in the when we did the first all that Hell stuff in New England.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they did. They were like, you saw Elohim, Jinn, and Shaitan, with Shaitan being a traditional Egyptian, like not Egyptian, but Middle Eastern term for demon. But like, I think originally they were just another part of the world, and they went off the farm in the second age and built Hell, and that didn't work out very well for them.
Right, because it was the end of the second age that cut Hell off and made it degrade into weird Mad Max, but with whatever the Gaia energy is. My mind's making a blank now.
I think Anima.
Yes, without Anima, they Mad Maxed it.
Yeah, pretty much. And now it's full of like, strippers and demons.
Yeah, just reading the Raksha lore is fucking horrifying if you think about it for a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing.
Now, at this point, I am looking on my phone. Now, I'm looking at this. I don't understand it, so at some point, I look on my phone and have to get a picture walkthrough because I don't understand the written one. So, if you're wondering why this level takes forever, it's because I'm doing it essentially without a walkthrough, just so you can see what it's like without a walkthrough. And you can't actually use the in-game browser, because guess what?
Do you not?
None of the sites work with the in-game browser because it's too old.
Perfect. That's the secret world in its most modern form. God.
Yeah, at this point I look it up on my phone. So I remember part, and this is a thing I remember from talking about in New England. Rust red temples on the moon, and I thought it was implied the rust was blood. That's the only bit of like Third Age lore I remember.
Yeah, the Third Age was the dark age of technology. It really was. But like, basically at the end, sometime late in the first age, there was a big conflict between the Jinn and the humans and their supporters.
And the host.
And and their supporters. But like, ultimately the Jinn lost, and they were driven into the corners of the earth, and they just stewed and turned to reactionary politics, and they divided into I think there's like 3 factions. One is just flat out genocidal against everything. One is like they want to destroy the planet entirely. One is they want to kill all humans, and one is they kind of passively want to kill all humans, but they don't want to actually do it. They'd just be happy if they all went away. And that's the smallest one, and that's the one that's the faction that one Jinn we talked to belongs to. But they've been sort of kicking around ever since the first age, even through those resets. They preserved that information somehow. And it hasn't worked out very well for them. So that is the ultimate aftermath of the Jinn. And there's definitely more that I don't remember, but Secret Lore is like Secret World lore is just intentionally obscure, so there's definitely stuff I don't have.
Oh, you'll get used to those screen shakes because they make me actually kill myself one time.
Beautiful.
Because there's a jump pad puzzle in here.
Oh, there is there?
Oh, yes, there's a big chamber that's nothing but jump pad puzzle.
Man. This fucking game.
I'm so sorry that you're getting this. But it was even worse playing it. Oh god. Did I ever tell you how I read the Necronomicon?
No.
Okay, so there are two versions of the Necronomicon. There is the Simon and Schuster real life magic Necronomicon that is very stupid and silly and is full of ye old magic. And then there is a narrative book that proclaims itself to be the Necronomicon that I bought, God, at least 16 years ago that I remember reading. And it was literally Abdul Hazred's journey through the Middle East, finding all this cool Lovecraft shit. And it was very interesting because there's a mention where he meets the ghouls of the desert, and all sorts of cool Lovecraft slash Middle Eastern mythology stuff going on.
Yeah, it's
I'll
fun.
have to see if I can find a copy of that. I'll find my copy of that. It should be somewhere.
It's funny reading like when the earliest mentions of the Necronomicon, because when people talk about it today, they talk about it like a book that will immediately drive you mad. And when Lovecraft wrote about it, like half the people, in the Mountains of Madness, I remember right, something like half the party had already read it, and they just they didn't like reading it, but certainly didn't make them lose their minds or anything. And like Abdul al-Hazred lived a very important life as an influential advisor in like the Umayyad court, and I think until I think they imply the Migo snatched him away at the end of his life.
He was killed but ripped apart by invisible demons.
So who knows? That could be many things. Ooh, gory.
Yep.
Yeah,
and this is just setting up. Hey, we're gonna do this as a mechanic at some point. And here are the Invincible Mummies. Very Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And here's me stupidly running into the fire.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on that, but in a sort of sarcastic, yeah, but Indiana Jones wasn't able to run through Fireway, but no, they decided to take the more realistic route. At this point, I am honestly surprised that fire would even phase the character. Like, they've seen so much worse. They've walked off so many gunshots that don't even matter. Like, beyond the obligatory B respawn. Like,
now what you're seeing is me trying to find, because there is lore here. The problem is that door is only open if you don't hit the kill all mummies button. So the mummies will invincibly chase you down.
And you just have to find the lore and then die.
Oh, later on, pretty much. Later on, we'll be facing invisible mummies inside of a maze that regularly kill me.
This fucking level. This is a bad game to some. Like, I know you've defended this game in the past, I think, but
here's the poison floor level. Watch me die here too. No, that isn't what kills me. I actually wait for my health to regen.
Oop. Oh, there you go. Oh, too bad. Yeah, that's that is the equivalent of like making the thing you need to click on to go to the next area a couple pixels wide. That's just a dick move. Yeah.
Do you know that this is not one of the original levels of the game? This came in one of the expansions.
They I thought they're supposed to be like have more experience and do this stuff better when they're releasing expansions.
I don't know who made this level, but fuck you.
Yeah, and there's no heal, no anything you can do. Yeah, the obligatory. I do like the undead roars this game has. They're very specific. God, I remember Solomon. I remember Innsmouth Academy.
Which was so good, right?
It was interesting. Yeah. It was sad. It was kind of fucked up on all kinds of levels, but you know. It was a way more visually interesting place than this. This is just generic tomb.
I think what we've really learned here is being Indiana Jones isn't as interesting as they make it out to be.
Oh God, no. Yeah, ask any archaeologist.
I don't mean archaeologist, I mean Indiana Jones.
Like, well, literally Indiana Jones.
Yes, because 90% of his time is this.
He's just trying not to die in these same ancient ruins over and over again.
That is pretty much it, yeah.
I'm pulling open the King Solomon lore fragments now, just so I can see and get a better idea of how this works, so I can talk about it.
Here's the jump puzzle.
Okay, so finished skimming it. You'll never guess where King Solomon actually came from.
Where?
The Third Age. He's a time traveler. Like, what a shocker, right? And it's just, especially since they've been talking about how all the stuff he used to bind demons is, Third Age technology. And he's as much in the secret world at least, he's as much like a scientist and how do I put this? He's well, okay. He was like a scientist and like fate probability manipulator as anything else, but he was very fond of enchanting ancient shit and sealing demons and spirits and stuff. Interesting thing that... Okay, so have I talked about the goetic demons before?
No.
So, okay. Basically, I've talked about... I earlier, this episode mentioned Pope summoning demons to banish them and all. So basically, just as the same, at some point in the Middle Ages, people got it into their heads that, for better or for worse, they should try and start categorizing demons. They'd already tried to do this for angels, to discover, like, using various questionable biblical sources to figure out what authority they had for where. So they started to do that for demons. This, like, I'd have to do some more thorough research to get the exact details of the process, but this is early and high Middle Ages, like somewhere in the around 1000 AD, I think. They codified this list of a few hundred major demons that, and in this, it was the peak of it was a book called the Ars Goetica, and it had the list of demons it put forward means that it was like they still call them Goetic demons, but this basically
I've seen some of the illustrations. They're pretty wacky.
Yep, they are. I have to admit, I kind of like this kind of puzzle, but only when the platforming is good. And this is the secret.
Platforming is not good.
Yeah, it is never good in this game. But like,
as I've said before, I admire them for trying, but to me it's kind of like the fourth Indiana Jones movie.
Like,
it's like, I get what you're trying to do. You succeeded in some respects, but not enough for it to be
a good movie. Like, and it wasn't an awful movie looking back, but it was just not a great movie. It was just mediocre.
Yes, that's very much how I feel. But the lore and everything is just so good that I want more of it.
I am kind of... talk to any historian and they'll get salty about Crystal Skulls. Because Crystal Skulls, the whole Crystal Skull thing, do you know the story behind it?
No, I know. I think it's a hoax of some sort.
Yep, they're all hoaxes. They're a series of hoaxes that people use to pass off. Basically, people go, okay, we don't know all this much about ancient Mesoamerica and ancient South America, and we'll just group this all together and make weird-looking crystal skulls and sell this to gullible scientists, and it worked for over a century. Though there was never a point where people universally accepted they were genuine artifacts. There were always people going, this doesn't work. But it is kind of frustrating to see people take that seriously. But it's an Indiana Jones movie. Like, even in a bad Indiana Jones movie, you would expect them to mess around with shit like this.
Yeah, and I get what they're going for. It's set in the 50s. He's going for like a B-movie sci-fi sort of feel. I mean, he grew up as a kid with Buck Rogers shorts. That's why he made Star Wars.
Yeah. But somebody...
I'm talking about George Lucas, who
Lucas.
was part of the filming. Like, I watched the riff tracks of Crystal Skull, and like the first thing they say when Spielberg and Lucas show up, their names on the opening credits, they say, Steven, I tried to keep Lucas from ruining it, Spielberg.
God, it's very much the friend who tries and fails to rein the other friend in. With those two. Yeah, because George Lucas, he's a good writer if people are there to rein him in and tell him, no, George, that's a fucking awful idea, knock it off. But we've come to the point where too many people grew up on Star Wars for that to be a thing. People just kind of unconsciously defer to him now. So all of his terrible ideas get indulged.
Not after the last couple Star Wars.
Yeah, everyone knows he's bad at this these days, but still, when you're on, like, if you grew up with Star Wars and are on a set with George Lucas, it's hard to say no. Even though you know, true. Like,
that is absolutely true.
Even though you know you absolutely should.
Like, I get what he's going for with the prequels. He's trying to do simultaneously the rise and fall of a well-meaning but misguided man. who has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's also trying to do a political thriller, but he's not good at either of those things.
Yeah, he can't. He's not working. Like, he had a literal blueprint for Star Wars, and that was not what he used for the prequels. And like, American Graffiti was good. Indiana Jones, the original Indiana Jones, were obviously unimpeachable, but like, though what is it? What was it? Lost Temple, the middle
Indiana
one.
Jones, the middle one, Temple
Yeah,
of Doom.
Temple of Doom. That was pretty fucked up, honestly. But like,
And there it is. The fucking screen shake, so I had to go around the whole fucking thing again.
they just threw. Yeah,
I hate screen shakes in games. Never do that in your video game. Fuck you.
yeah. Especially not in a way that's going to change where like.
Yeah, do not do it if you're doing fucking platforming. Precision platforming.
Especially in a game that can't do precision platforming.
Absolutely.
If you gotta admit they really did try with this engine, but good lord, did they not carry it off half the time? It's tragic.
So yeah, do we have anything else we want to say about the ages?
I mean, like, as you
We're just not given enough information.
like, I'm trying to dig up right now. I'm on the
wiki.
yeah, I'm on, well, not on the wiki, but like the thing. What's it called? The fucking, it's like a lore thing. I'm looking up stuff like the Jinn and such, and doing research now so I can have stuff to talk about. Now that's interesting.
What?
In the lore entries, when it talks about the Jinn and they're being created by the host, it talks about them and it talks about the host and the Gaia, not quite interchangeably, but very much in the terms of the host made them, and then they swore oaths to Gaia. And when Gaia favored them, that's when they rebelled. Like, it acts like the lore itself talks about it like Gaia is the director of the host.
Okay, so it's entirely possible Gaia is the god they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. In which case, we're both wrong, so we can high five each other over that.
But if that's the case, it's also the case. It also doesn't make a lot of sense because of the Gaia engines.
I mean, the Gaia engines predate anything alive on Earth, technically. It's kind of like they're literally building blocks of reality.
That's something that always made me go, wait. The whole thing about, well, if Gaia is the spirit of the Earth and everything and created reality, what's outside of Earth's atmosphere? We've been to the moon. We've put probes on Mars and outside the solar system. Are we all that's there?
Earth is the center of the universe, man. I think that's literally it.
Oh my god, there's no aliens because Gaia keeps fucking up on Earth.
Maybe so. That is entirely possible.
Oh god, I really hope you like... I hope you like...
Every annoying kind of puzzle that's ever existed just comes up in this mission.
You can lean back in your chair. We're not going anywhere for a while.
Oh, I've been leaning back in my chair. Like, I'm currently slouched. Like, think of that image from like the if you remember the World of Warcraft episode of South Park and the fat guy just sitting
Yes.
there, that's
Yeah.
imagine that. And if the biggest difference between that image and me is that my room is currently dark and I'm not putting my hands on the table, unlike the desk, and that's about the biggest differences there are.
I've been playing Lord of the Rings online, and we're not LPing that game because that game is huge and still getting content updates.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck in fucking Moria right now, and oh my god, Moria takes for fucking ever.
I remember watching that episode when it came out. I had a friend who was huge into South Park, and he was convinced that that guy was Leroy Jenkins, like the one from the meme, and would not hear otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's not. He doesn't do anything Leroy Jenkins-esque.
Yeah, he did that from time to time. Like, he would get stuck on things. I remember he once very, very enthusiastically told me that basically that transvestite and transgender were the same thing and would not hear otherwise. I mean, he grew out of that phase, but or rather, he eventually learned better. But he would do that. Then again, this guy, and I'm making him sound kind of dumb and stuck in his ways, but he's studying to be an evolutionary biologist right now. He's not stupid. He is, however, about as batshit as every biologist should be. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure/mispleasure of having biologists in your private life.
No, I know they do very strange things for their field.
Yeah, they just something about being close to the deep essence of life just makes them not care about social circumstances as much. Back in college, back in high school, he volunteered at a major museum, and he would bring in. He's always been a big bird watcher, and he's now doing work in birds. And our high school had a big, enormous glass window in the side of the on the side of the building that birds would just come at full speed because it looks like a throughway into a garden area, and they just snap their necks on it and die. And they do this just over and over again all year. And he would go to those birds, and he would just pick them up with his bare hands and throw them in his backpack, and then go to the museum after school to deliver it. And I watched him do this in horror one day, and he showed no guilt or sign of any of conceiving of the idea that this was at all strange. I remember we were walking out to the bus. I saw his sister walk past. I said, "Hey, my friend's sister, do you know that Ari has a dead bird in his bag they just found?" And she stopped and sighed and kept walking. She did not even look. She just knew. She just sort of accepted it and had to move on with her life like that.
I think I've heard you tell that story before, but it was about a million videos before this.
And yeah, we've got a lot of videos behind us. But yeah, this is it's biologists are biologists. Biologists are weird. Nice people, not hardly bad people, but weird.
I don't really have anything to say anymore.
Yeah, this mission has overstayed its welcome, so we're just kind of around. We're hanging out.
I gotta send this picture I just found to you.
Oh god. Right now, I'd like just to have something to talk about. I'm reading up on Secret World ghouls. And the Jinn claimed to have made them to clear battlefields of human corpses during the First Age. That's why they eat human flesh. Superman is... What? Superman... Picture saying Superman is coming in Supergirl. and Superman is doing
As
what?
as in Superman is coming in the TV series.
Yeah,
That's not what it sounds like.
that's
It's
not
like
how
when
they
Disney
phrased it.
It's like when Disney put out that press release for some like 70th anniversary shit or 100th anniversary shit, and it said Minnie is dripping with excitement, and they went, "Wait, what?"
Wait, what?
Somebody got fired for that one.
Yeah, I guess. Wow, she must have been really lonely after Mickey's been away for a while. That's that is, uh, that's not a very family friendly.
I look forward to our next LP, Kingdom Hearts 3.
God, oh God.
No,
Like,
we're not doing that. I would never touch Kingdom Hearts. I can't deal with that shit.
I love Kingdom
I
Hearts.
tried to
and
play
hate it.
Kingdom Hearts
It's-
3.
Did you just
tried
start?
to play Kingdom.
If you
I tried to.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Now that I've claimed it, I'll talk over you. Kingdom Hearts doesn't make any sense. Kingdom Hearts, you have to. Somebody basically. The thing about Kingdom Hearts is that every time they release a game, they retcon something else in the backstory, so nothing makes any sense at all. It's just you just have to go with the flow, or you have to have somebody who just stands over your shoulder and like talks you through things. Like
I saw that Brian Taylor Gilbert unraveled on fucking on he did. You remember Brian Taylor Gilbert and Unraveled?
Nope.
From like IGN.
Nope.
Oh God, you should watch it. He once did what's the sexiest monster in Castlevania? How to determine your pet's HP in class.
Okay.
What is Kirby, in which he has a mental breakdown because he cannot comprehend Kirby.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
How would the Dark Souls bosses be as like your boss at work?
That would be that's like. Did he do a Kingdom Hearts
He actually
thing?
makes a ranking scale.
Oh God. But like, what did he do a Kingdom Hearts thing? Like,
Yeah, and he said summarizing the plot of Kingdom Hearts using hero theory, the hero cycle thing.
yeah, that's
Except he also goes insane in that one because it doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't. That's the hero's journey does not work with Kingdom Hearts.
I just remember him like running off to like the Xenoheart Circle or something and says, "And then you Nort a boy," and I'm like, "Oh my God."
Norting. Yeah, the use of the word Nort is just so cartoon, so comical, and I love it so. And like God, years ago, back when let me think about it. This was back. My parents bought me and my sister a PS2, and they also bought each of us with our first PS2 games. And they bought me Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1. And for my sister, they bought Kingdom Hearts, because they saw it. And we played way more Kingdom Hearts than Dragon Ball Z Budokai, I'll tell you that. Because it's a good game, it's just... It has some very simple characters, and...
You have to be in the right mindset for it. It is not comprehensible to the human mind at all.
Yeah, it's... Like, if you let yourself get invested in the characters, if you let yourself get, like, it really does work just purely on vibes. If you can just sort of vibe with it for a while, then, you will find yourself, like, deeply engaged. But short of that, it'll be completely incomprehensible.
One place I see it brought up a lot is Oni plays. Like, I've watched some Oni plays, and they've done all the Kingdom Hearts one. They did Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and I've watched some of them, and oh my God, the way they just mess with the insanity of Oni plays is just so good. I don't know why. I will never forget. They're playing Kingdom Hearts 1, and Oni's like, what would you do if you had a clone of Hitler? And they get into a debate about what clone means.
Yeah. God,
He's like, if you had a clone of Hitler, would you torture it? And they're like, no, because he didn't do anything. No, it's a clone. It's got all his memories, but it's not Hitler. It's just them arguing for
yeah,
15 minutes
because
about the meaning of clone.
God, there's a picture that's been going around of God. I wish I could find it so I could share it with you and share it with the 3 people watching this in the course of human history. But like, there's a character called Riku, and
Yes.
yeah, he turns into so many people. He shapeshifts involuntarily, and people shapeshift into him so frequently. There's a chart where it's just like different versions of him, and it's half of them are labeled same character, the other half are labeled not the same character, and you would never be able to tell if you didn't have extensive backstory what the fuck was going on. Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts is so good.
Kingdom Hearts is great. I'm showing. I just put a link to and stumbled across a YouTube video looking for that particular post that I shared with you. It's
What is this voice acting?
Kingdom Hearts voice acting is the best. It is just the best thing ever. Totally owned, you lamers.
I was more talking about the guy who's like, Sora, the Heartless, have me now.
Yeah. I mean, granted that he was currently being mind controlled when that was in that scene.
Okay, that's fair.
Like
that is how I would expect a mind controlled person to talk.
Yeah, he was basically like basically imagine the equivalent of being so stoned you can't look straight, except it's on negative human emotion. That's kind of what was going on there.
I don't think that's the reaction I'd have if I was so stoned I couldn't think straight on human emotion.
But like,
I was thinking it would be more like just
it's hard to
suicide.
It's hard to describe because it's Kingdom Hearts. But
that is true.
God, I am going to obsess over that fucking Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts Riku chart?
Yeah, Hearts. Did you find it?
No, I'm not looking for it. I'm just giving you Google instructions.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts Riku, same character. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help. Because the post doesn't even mention Riku by name. It just shows him. Is it the same character? Not the same character. God.
Okay, I'll mention something we talked about before the show just to lighten things up. I was on 4chan.
Oh God.
I went to the comics board
Right.
and they were posting moments associated with comics and cartoons that you will remember forever. And this dude described like it's first post of the thread, inaugural post, and the guy's like, I remember watching Count Chicken with my grandma, and then she said, I don't understand, and passed away. And I just started laughing because I couldn't imagine the last thing you see in life being, and specifically it was the ugliest wiener episode. Just seeing that going, I don't understand, and then immediately fucking die.
God. And fucking like it is.
Cow chicken is very hard to understand. Cow chicken was weird. My dad still says pork butts and taters every time we have dinner. It's yeah, I'll say should we have for dinner? And say pork butts and taters.
God.
Oh god, this is such a bad mission. Apparently you can sort of kind of stealth past this guy. Because I managed to do it here.
Oh, I found it. I found it.
Oh, you found? I'll link it to me and I'll post it in the description.
I do love how this mission's so bad. We've just descended into sending links across into links to each other on Discord. I don't know. Did it go through?
Yeah, it did.
Good.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And the best part is, I know. Yeah, I know who all of these people are. I can tell you why each of these are different characters, even though they all look exactly. They all look nearly the same, and the ones that don't look the same are different characters. The ones that look similar are different characters. God. And it's, I mean, that same post has a thing about Homestuck, but that's less art style. That's less like Homestuck has plenty of its own trippy bullshit, but that's more art style than like anything else. In Kingdom Hearts, they could make them look different if they wanted to. They just don't. God, we've never talked about Homestuck on here. I don't know if you ever read it.
I've never read it. I was too old to read Homestuck by the time Homestuck started.
Dude, aren't we about the same age?
Like I said, I was too old to read Homestuck when Homestuck started.
Oh, God. Like, I don't know. When did it start? It started in like the mid 2000s, right? I don't know.
I never got into Homestuck. I was too busy on something awful with the Control Delete Mock thread.
Yeah. Well, I can't tell you which.
Here our character does something stupid.
Here our character does something very Indiana Jones, I'm assuming. Yep.
What happens if I poke it?
That's the scientific method in action. You can't find out until you try.
Well, no, it's not the scientific method because it didn't have the 10-foot pole.
No, like, there's enough scientists that have done really incredibly stupid things like this.
My favorite one of those is the guy who he was a doctor who wanted to prove something, so he put like
wait, in the
a
name of the
stent
wait. This is a third age AI, I believe.
Yes.
By the bited bit, by the bitter bikes, Solomon, is that you? Smiling Magus, have you come to gloat? Age skipper, lie tongue, you stole greatness from the cosmos as the raven stole the sun from the sky. You are not Solomon, neither Jinn, cherub, nor shaitan. A mud doll. You have a mere sulphur breath upon you. Poor wretch. He is ashes where once he was fire.
So, that's the Deceiver, Devourer.
The unnamed one, the Nameless.
Cease your babble, automaton. A curse on this chattering prison. It saps my might. But even a fraction of myself makes the gods tremble. Once I am free of this place, my power will be 1,000-fold. I am the Jinn of this cell.
Oh God, I almost sent that post to my boss. I just misclicked something. I better get out of there before I do. That would have been completely incomprehensible. Like, geez, like waking up at 10:30. What the fuck? God, it is really interesting actually seeing what a third age artificial intelligence sounds like, because it is very theocratic in there. It's very, there's a lot of, this back padding for something you would expect. That something that exists just as a prison for something else.
one restores. Step into the healing light.
Yeah, but this is such.
Yeah,
Anyway,
this
go
is
back
pretty
to.
much. Yeah, this is pretty much just a boss fight. Yeah, I never read Homestuck. I was too busy with the Control Delete mock thread on something awful.
I remember Control Alt Delete. That was a terrible comic that got better when he started trying to take it seriously and do dramatic things with it, but he couldn't help himself, and he just went back to more shitty, terribly written game jokes over and over again. It was tragic.
It did not
he was
get
also an
better
asshole.
when he tried to. It did not get better when he tried to do serious things. Or do you not remember Loss?
I mean, no, like there's a different. That's not the kind of serious I'm talking about. That's fair. Lost was hilarious, but like, I mean, Lost was hilarious unless you've had to deal with miscarriage.
Do you think it bothers him?
Oh, there's no. I think I'm absolutely certain that it bothered. The reception of Lost got on his
No,
last nerve.
not that. I mean the fact that no one is going to remember Control Delete. No one is going to remember his life's work that he's still working on. He does the reboot now to make money. No one will ever remember him for anything other than Loss. He will forever be Tim Buckley, the guy who wrote Loss.
I think Lost has just transcended Tim Buckley at this point. Like, Lost.jpg. At this point, Lost.jpg is so abstract that people who are there are plenty of people who are familiar with it and laugh at it and use it who have never seen the original JPEG. They've just seen the parodies. It's just... It has completely transcended the source material. Like, it has left them behind.
I think I have to send you, so every year for a couple years, the V-board of 4chan has had a musical. And they've written songs.
That, God. That sounds unsurprising.
They wrote a song about loss.
Of course they wrote a song about loss.
You don't have to listen to that if you don't want to.
I'm probably not going to, but thank you for giving me that opportunity. Like, fucking, yeah, I don't know, fucking Tim Buckley. Like, I know that there have been people who are like famous for various comic or webcomic related bullshit that have been trying to reboot their careers in webcomics. Like, you know Rob Liefeld?
Yes.
He tried to do a webcomic a few years back, and
with his art.
Yeah, and he has improved significantly. He draws feet now, not frequently, but he does. But I mean, I opened it up, and page 3 had a woman being brutalized to summon some demon. I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work for me. I think he hasn't changed as much as he thinks he has. So it was just, you know, better. Same thing, better art. Oh, and everyone had those comically exaggerated figures. They just weren't. It just wasn't blatant about it anymore.
I think that's just how he sees the world.
I think, yeah, it's hard to know. Like, by all accounts, he's a nice guy to work with, and he'll just do his job and get things in on time and not ask for praises. And that makes him a golden child in the comics industry by any standard. And that's why he gets so much work, or at least used to before he got famous. But, well, yeah. Celebrities. God, I love that Kingdom Hearts chart. I will never get tired of it. It is just... Same character, different characters. God, I should be more excited about this. This is a remnant of the Third Age we are seeing up close, and it's just a rather generic boss fight against a magician demon. Like, I don't know how fun it was. I can't tell from watching the footage.
It's just a generic boss fight. It's not really.
Not terribly interesting.
I mean, I'm more interested in the origin story of this guy and how it relates to our previous argument about is there a singular creator god in this story.
I mean, you heard him mention I think he mentioned.
The host.
Yeah, he mentioned the angels and devils and angels and demons and
Cherubs.
jinn. Yeah, cherubs there, and no God, no mention of God. Though on the scale he was presumably operating at, he probably wouldn't be interacting with God if God was around anyway. But like, yeah, from what I can see, from the lore I read, basically Gaia takes the role of this sort of hands-off creator god in this cosmos. But the host is gone for some reason. She isn't, even though she is dormant.
Escape. You must remain here so that I may be free. You cannot have them. No one has command over me. No god, no demon. I am the unbound. This prison cannot keep me forever. I will see you laughing in hell with Solomon.
Wow, that accomplished so much. The Call of the Nandos?
Call of the Nameless.
The Cult of the Nameless, I see.
Call of the Nameless.
Is it Call?
And we did it.
We
Yeah,
did
it's
it?
Call.
Yeah.
We did it. We're done. It's over. Thank God. And now you know why I never replay that mission.
And we can let it rest in pieces forevermore.
Yeah, so this was a long video. We talked about everything we wanted to talk about within the first hour, and then it was just us bullshitting.
Yeah, you got to learn more about Kingdom Hearts than you ever needed to know. And you still didn't learn anything about Kingdom Hearts.
Watch the Brian David Gilbert video.
And hey, there's still people coming to Agartha after all these years.
Yep.
Alright, now on that note, the video is almost over somehow. Oh. So yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, if you are still here. And we will presumably see you again.
See you later.